Hey, everybody. I am so excited that you are here. Welcome to Push Positive Live. My name is Meliss. I'm an author, health, and life coach here at mycoachmeliss.com. And today's topic, what I really want to dive deep in, is very important and very prominent in our society, no matter which society you're in, really. And that is the topic of mental health. And it's such an important thing to discuss. It's not discussed enough, and that may actually cause some of the issues that we have in our society around mental health, keeping it as a taboo subject. It never really gets discussed, and the problem with that is people who do suffer from mental health then feel shunned, and then they don't come out and talk about it, and so they're bottling up their feelings, and then all these amazingly terrible things happen. So I want to share this on my page so more people can see this, and I encourage you to share today's Push Positive Live on your page as well, because that way we'll get the topic of mental health out there and people will not have to suffer as much or won't have to suffer alone if they're suffering. And one thing I want to talk to you about is the fact that mental health is something we all need to strive for. Whether you have a mental health issue or not right now, that doesn't mean that you won't necessarily in your life have one, or you may have had one in the past and you don't have one now. So making sure that you are treating yourself well, and that includes mental health, is really important. So I'm just trying to share this on my page. We've been having technical difficulties. I tried to go live on this topic last week, and after 5 different attempts, I wasn't able to go live. So I want to just share this right now. And in fact, this is our 2nd attempt today. So someone doesn't want this message to get out there, but we're going to make sure it happens because it's important. So I just shared it on my page. All right. So what I want to talk about today, what we normally do is we start off with a breathing exercise, which I don't have for you today because I really wanted to talk about this topic. Oh, my hair, guys, crazy. I wanted to just go right into it because it's so important and it often gets overlooked. So let's talk about mental health awareness. What is mental health? We need to define that. Let me get comfortable here. So we're going to talk about what does that mean, mental health? That is your emotional well-being, your psychological well-being, your social well-being. It's basically what affects your relationships between other people. It's what affects your mood, how you feel, how you act, how you think, and it also determines how we relate to other people and deal with stress. Stress is going to happen no matter what in your life, and we need to be able to have a coping mechanism that's helpful, that helps us get through that. Otherwise, you may feel stuck, and when you feel stuck and you feel like you have no one to talk to, you're not able to make clear choices, and the choices you make might not be the best choice for you at the time, and they could have detrimental effects. And before we go any further, I just want to let you know that here in the USA, and I'm sure you guys have things in other countries too, because I know my audience is global, we have a suicide prevention hotline and also a text message. And I want to give that number out for you now in case you or anyone that you share this to or watching may need it. But just know that the suicide hotline, it shouldn't be something taboo. It's not usually used when you're standing off a bridge about to jump off. It's used when you're dealing with stress and overwhelm and you're crying all the time and you don't know why, or you're angry all the time and you don't know why, and you just feel stuck. And instead of making a decision that could be harmful to yourself or to your loved ones, you call to talk about it, because talking about your feelings is what helps you repair them and heal and be able to move on and move forward. And a lot of times in this country we say, bottle up your feelings, you toughen it up, and that's really where the problem comes from. So I just want to give you the information and then we'll go more into the topic. But the number is 1-800-273 8255. And you can also send a text message for free 24/7, and you will have a conversation back and forth. This is for the USA, but it's the crisis support, and you just send the text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 if you guys ever need help to reach out. All right, so let's talk about, my notes are here, that's why I keep looking. Let's talk about what that means, that mental health awareness, and why is that something that affects really everybody in some form or fashion. So first of all, it could do with your brain chemistry. It could be something that is off balance within you, within your brain chemistry. It could also be related to your family history. It could be hereditary. Maybe someone in your family suffered from mental illness and mental health. So mental health issues, so maybe you do as well. And also it can be life experience, and I think that's the one that people forget. Life experience can really have a huge impact in the way you think and you feel and you act and you cope with stress, which is the definition of mental health. So you could go through a very traumatic experience and then suffer from depression or anxiety. It doesn't mean you're necessarily born with it. It doesn't mean that it's hereditary, and it might not be related to brain chemistry. It may just be that you've suffered something traumatic, a breakup, a loss, maybe a death in the family, you're grieving. So all of these life experiences that happen to us over time become like a thorn, like something that's poking at you. And if you don't deal with it, what happens is you end up getting stuck and depressed, and you end up feeling that you're unworthy or unloved or unimportant and useless. You don't have purpose here. And all of those negative emotions can really cause you to feel depressed. I know, because I was depressed for 10 months after a hard breakup. And then I wrote a book on it, Push Positive. So if you don't have your book, you definitely want to grab it. It's at pushpositivebook.com. You can get a free copy, just pay for shipping. And I discuss with you what that means, that experience of being depressed and that experience of getting out of it alone. So you definitely want to try that, not necessarily alone, but I did my own research and I worked through it, and that's in that book as well. So let's talk about feelings. What feelings affect your mental health? And we could see, let's say when you have experienced a mental health issue, you may have trouble eating. You may eat too much. You may eat not enough. You may have trouble sleeping, where you are sleeping all day long, or you have insomnia and you're never sleeping, so you're always on edge. So these extremes on the spectrum can really show you that someone's going through something. Or if you recognize these feelings in yourself, you can say, something's out of whack here. And instead of burying it and burying it deeper and deeper and not dealing with it, which makes it worse, you can say, oh, I am eating a lot or not enough, or I am sleeping a lot or not enough. I might have something going on that's deeper. And we need to express our feelings. You may have low energy, or you may be pulling away from your friend groups or from things that you really love and enjoy, and now you don't really care too much for them anymore. Like if you're passionate about something. For example, I'm passionate about folk dancing, and I love it, and it brings me life, and I get excited about it, and I travel to dance camps to learn more and more folk dances and be a part of my community. And when I was really depressed, I didn't want to dance at all. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I felt like it was stupid. Why am I even a part of this? And that's a trigger that lets me know something is out of line. So if you have passions that are no longer exciting for you, just out of the blue, or maybe just over time when you're dealing with something traumatic or you're grieving, then know that this is a mental health issue. If you feel like nothing matters, just nothing's important, things that you may have on your calendar in your appointment book and you need to go and do, or even just taking care of your children and you just feel overwhelmed and you throw your hands up and you're surrendering to the world, I'm done with all this, that's a good indication that you're having something going on. Or if you're feeling helplessness, like you just can't really achieve what you're trying to do. Simple tasks, even maybe like going to the grocery store, you just feel helpless. That feeling is so, it makes you feel even more degraded. Like you feel you're creating this for yourself when you're stuck in this, but you're also like you're fueling it as you're experiencing it, and it becomes a cycle. I experience this negative feeling. It must be true. Let me tell myself that I am unworthy. That must be true. Because I've told myself I'm unworthy, I'm feeling unworthy, and it becomes a cycle that's really hard to break, which is why you need to reach out to get help so that someone else can just go, stop. We're going to break this cycle right here. Maybe you feel worried or angry or upset. All these negative, ugly emotions are a good indicator that you're going through something tough. Or if you have crazy mood swings, really happy one minute, really angry the next, really sad, crying in your room, rolled up in a ball. Those crazy swing emotions are a good indicator that you're grieving or you're going through something traumatic and you need help and you need to reach out for help. And that could be a good friend or someone close to you, or even the number that I gave you earlier, and I'll give you again, which is the suicide prevention hotline. And I want to remind you, it's not the suicide hotline. It's not something that you call when you're about to shoot yourself in the head or jump off a bridge. It's something that you call to prevent getting to that point. It's when you have no one to turn to and you just feel like, I can't lay all this out on my friends or my family. I feel like a burden. I don't want to tell everybody my true, deepest feelings. Sometimes it's easier to tell a stranger, and it's totally free. So it's 1-800-273-8255, or you can text the word HOME, HOME, to 741-741, and you can have a text message back and forth. If you don't feel comfortable being on the phone and talking, you can text, and it's a stranger who's trained in being able to speak to you, and there's nothing embarrassing about that. That is you taking care of yourself, and I highly recommend you do it, even if you don't even feel like, oh, I'm sad and depressed, but not that sad and depressed. Well, I bet you if you talk to them or text them, you will feel better. So get started on it and do it, because it's free. They're there to help you, and it's important that you're heard, and it's important that people listen to you, whether they're close to you or not. And sometimes it's easier with a stranger. All right, so let's talk about how to stay positive throughout all of this. And again, if you need help with that, you can grab my book, Push Positive, at pushpositivebook.com. I have a free copy that I'm giving away. You just pay for shipping and I send it off to you. It's a great little book here full of lots of information, and it describes what I went through. So you'll find that helpful, and it also talks about how to get yourself out of it. So how do we stay positive? You connect with others. And I know that is challenging when you don't feel good enough, or you don't feel like you have the energy enough. Sometimes if you're introverted or you suffer from anxiety, like the last thing you want to do is reach out to other people. So I understand that, and I recommend you contact the suicide prevention helpline, or you go to a therapist, or you go to a life coach, or you journal. But you want to stay connected, even if it's through just social media. You don't want to go off the grid against your urge, because your urge will be to hide out and go off the grid. But what's really going to happen is you're going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it's just going to get worse. So you want to keep yourself grounded out into society by connecting with others, at least one other person, so you're not alone. That's the thing. That's the key, not being alone. You want to deal with personal development. So you want to read personal development books. You want to read self-help books. You can go on Audible and you can download a book and just listen to it in your headphones, or listen when you're driving. You can go onto YouTube and download motivational or personal development style videos. But you have to be willing to learn, and you have to be willing to grow, because that's what's going to help you get beyond your limits. And what happens when we're depressed and we're unhappy and we're grieving, or we've been through something traumatic, is we create this divider between us and the outside world. We create this fence or wall that is making us feel comfortable, like we're we're bundled up, snuggling in a blanket. We want to be close. But what you end up doing is you separate yourself from others. So what you want to do is help yourself grow and expand beyond the fence or the gate that you've created. So when you've divided yourself up, I'm shutting myself down. Instead, you want to be able to expand past your comfort zone and get stronger and be able to work through these things. And as we grow as individuals, both with our age and our mental state and our emotional state, we get stronger. So we're more wise. We're wiser when we get older. And we have to be able to take charge of our life. We can't just let things go. If everything is just like, oh, that's it, I guess I'm depressed, so that's the end, then you really don't have that experience of pushing past it and getting through it. And that's a learning experience. And when you're on the other side of that, wow, you're the strongest version of yourself you've ever been. So it is a tough time, and we all go through tough times. Someone dies, or we go through a breakup, or we lose a job, or we feel like we have no money. All these things are traumatic, or maybe there was some act of violence against us, and it really can take a toll on your life. But these life experiences happen, unfortunately, and it's your job to work through them so that you can be the strongest version of yourself, and good can come from it. I know it's hard to think about that, and it's hurtful when someone tells you there's a good side to this trauma you're going through, but the truth is there is, and that good side might not directly be towards you, but it will help other people. So if, let's say, someone committed an act of violence on you, first of all, I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm sorry that you experienced that. The good side of that would be, after you've worked through it and you are the stronger side of yourself, you can speak out about it, or you can tell a friend who might be going through the same thing. I've been there. So that's the same thing. I was very depressed, like really, really upset, and wasn't able to come out of it for a very long time. And then I did, and then I wrote this book. So when I'm going through that depression, I'm not thinking, oh, there's a good side to this. But coming out on the other end of it, after going through the personal development and expanding beyond my limits and reaching past my comfort zone, I was able to write a book. I was able to open up my life and health coaching company. I was able to reach massive amounts of people who are going through the same thing. So there is a good side to it, but you owe it to yourself to get to that other side of the hump. If you aren't sleeping enough, I suggest you sleep. And that might be hard to do, but maybe just listen to some calming music or watch some TV until your eyes just close and you doze off. If you're not sleeping enough, if you have insomnia, go see somebody that can help you with that. So, you just want to make sure that you're recognizing the signs of your mental health issues and then taking the action to move beyond that. Don't let that define you. You are an amazing human being. You have a lot of qualities that other people find favor in, and you have a lot of skills, even if you don't see them now, and you're an important person in this world. So if you feel negatively about yourself, it's your job to recognize what the problem is and go find help. Seek help for those things in a friend, in a life coach, in a therapist, or even anonymously on these helplines that I've been giving you throughout the whole life. I want you to build a support system. Do not be alone. In my religion, when somebody dies, we don't let them be alone for 7 days because it's not okay to be alone when you're grieving. It makes it worse. And when we're there and comforting them while they're grieving, they don't think about it as much. They still think about it, but they're not like dwelling on it. And when you're dwelling on your sadness or your grief or your hurt or your anger, it becomes a definition of you, and you don't want that to define you. What you're going through is not the definition of who you are. All of those amazing qualities and skills and talents that you have, that's what defines you. How you cope with stress is not a definition of who you are as a person. And it's something that you do have to learn how to cope and manage. Because if it's the very first time you're grieving, like it was for me, you don't know what to do with it. This is not a skill set that you're born with. It's something that you have to work on. So don't let your unhappiness or your depression or your grief or your trauma define you, because it doesn't define who you are as a person. It's something that you're going through, and you're not the only person that goes through these things. So don't feel alone. I want you to build a support system, somebody who you trust, like a parent or a friend or a religious mentor or a life coach, or a teacher. You just need to have someone that you can open up to. And if you have absolutely nobody, take your cell phone, open up the voice recording app or the memo or whatever, and start talking to yourself and recording it as though you are speaking to a close friend. And you'll see that that really does release that tension and that emotion, that anger that you have inside of you, or that hurt. I want you to allow yourself the permission to grow beyond your limits, to change as a person. Who I was before my depression is a completely different person than who I am after. So, recognize that it's okay to be an ever-evolving organism. You're constantly changing and growing, and that's okay. And life is all about piecing different lessons together. So this will just be one of those lessons, another chapter in your book. Your book of life. Also know that it's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay if the first way you tried to cope through the stress wasn't the best way and it didn't work. Try again, a different way, because that's what life is. It's a series of trying again, failing and trying again, and failing and trying again. And some of you might say, you know what, Meliss, I'm tired of failing and I'm tired of trying. And I hear you, and I understand that feeling 100%. But being on the other side of it, I've been there, so I could tell you being on this side of it is a lot happier and a lot brighter and a lot more positive and exciting, and I see the opportunities coming to me, and I'm grateful for every single thing I have in my life, including the traumatic experience I went through. I'm grateful for it because I see where it has brought me. And so it's not necessarily try and fail, try and fail, try and fail. It's get up and do it because you owe it to yourself. And if it doesn't work the first time, okay, don't give up, because you owe it to yourself to move forward in this life. Nothing in this life stands still. Trees are growing. Trees produce leaves. The leaves change. The leaves fall. The leaves come back the next season. Everything is a series of seasons, including your life. So if you're going through a hard time right now, that's just this season, but don't dwell in it, because then you get stuck. And life is changing around you, and you're changing too, whether you see it or not. And I want you to play that active role in your treatment. Don't assume that everyone else is going to help you out of it. They'll help you as much as they can, but we can only help as much as you're willing to accept that help. You have to play the active role in your recovery. And know that once you're recovered, you could be out of it, and you could also fall back into it. So it's always a work in progress, and don't feel like overwhelmed and drained that I don't want to always be a work in progress. I don't always want to be trying this out and working on it. Well, other people who may not have the same issues as you with depression or anxiety or trauma or fear, they have other issues, and they're also a work in progress. Every single human being on this planet is a work in progress. We are not perfect beings that arrive into the world all-knowing, omniscient, ready to take on whatever you throw at us. Every single one of us is a work in progress. So just know that. And if you need to reach out for help, be the one that does that. I want you to make an appointment. I want you to research who you can speak to. I want you to pick up the phone and text or call. I'll give you the number again. To the suicide prevention hotline in the USA is 1-800-273-8255, and you can text the word HOME, HOME, to 741-741. And I'm just telling you all this because no matter when you watch this, whether you're watching live, you're watching the replay, or you're watching it 2 years from now, it's very important to realize that this is not a taboo topic. People aren't talking about it because people don't know what to say. But as you can see, there are very famous people, rich, wealthy people with very full lives who are sadly committing suicide. Robin Williams was one of my favorite actors. I actually met him, and it was like the most exciting thing ever. And he killed himself. So nobody is immune to this. He was very successful, very happy, made other people laugh, and he still felt depressed or unhappy or whatever he felt. And we don't understand why these things happen. But I can tell you that hiding from them, not talking about them, and making it taboo only makes it worse. When I was in high school, I had a friend who killed herself. We were only 15. This is an epidemic in the country, in the world, and part of it is because nobody knows what to say. Nobody talks about it. And so I wanted to come on here and let you know that it is important. It is an important topic, and it's not only important when someone famous commits suicide and it becomes the buzz on social media. It's important every single day. And that's why I didn't do this live with this topic the day after Kate Spade or Anthony Bourdain, I don't remember his last name right now, but I didn't do this then when they committed suicide, because that's when it's prominent. That's when everyone's talking about it. And this is an important topic every day of the year, every year of the century. You could be watching this 5 years from now and it will still be important and it will still be relatable, because it's not a taboo topic. It's something that we need to put in your face every single day and let you know that you are not alone. And we all experience sadness and trauma and anger, and these emotions are all natural. And it's just when you get stuck in it that you feel small and you feel like you can't reach out to anyone. And I'm telling you that you can reach out to people, and we are all here ready to listen. And if you're just popping on, I gave the numbers to text message and phone call to the suicide prevention hotline. Like I said, it's not for just when you're so depressed you're ready to end your life and you're going to call them trying to get them to stop you. It's all the moments that you think before that where you feel stress and you don't know how to cope with it, or you feel anger, or you have insomnia, or you just feel completely out of whack. That's when you call and talk. That's when you open up your feelings. That's when you can release some of your tension. So you never have to get to that point of deciding, am I going to end my life or not? And I hope that these strategies that I gave you throughout this live help you. I want you to hold yourself accountable. I want you to reach beyond your comfort zone and know that there is an end as long as you're willing to work towards it. And think about your daily activities and long-term goals. And when you're depressed, it's hard to think about long-term goals because you're thinking, I don't care about myself. I don't care about my goals. I don't have a purpose here. There's no point to any of this. And I want you to think about, in a perfect world where life could be whatever you want it to be, what would you want it to be? And then I want you to work on those things, because you can have anything that you want, believe it or not. It's something that we are all capable of having. It is just whoever puts the work in towards it are the ones that achieve success. All right, so I'm going to tell you one more time this number, and I also want you to focus on the triggers that cause stress for you, and maybe keep a journal and write down all the triggers of what's stressful for you, so you'll know next time that thing happens, oh, that's a stress trigger. Let me learn how to cope with that, or let's try and avoid that situation altogether. Some situations are unavoidable, but if we have the right coping mechanisms, we can get through them. So the number again in the USA, and if you're not in the USA, please do a search on Google and try and find something similar in your country. The number again is 1-800-273-8255, or you can text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. Please share this video on your page. I think it's really important for everybody to have an open dialogue about this. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. And let's make sure that we can let everybody who's struggling have some sort of outlet and support through love and caring and compassion for other people, and know that you're not alone. And if you feel like, oh, depressed people, yeah, I'm going to avoid them, just know that you're not immune to it, and it can happen to you as well. So please take this video, share it on your page. I'm going to update the comment in the beginning of this video with the information for the suicide prevention hotline. And I hope you guys have a wonderful and beautiful day. I'll see you next time.